Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video of mine. So now that Little Nightmares 3 is completed, and I have released my full playthrough on YouTube. Usually I wouldn't really do much else with the game until the DLC comes out, but with Little Nightmares 3, I have noticed that there is quite a bit of criticism surrounding the game, and as someone who actually really did enjoy Little Nightmares 3, I, I did actually agree with a lot of the criticism surrounding the game. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to emphasize a couple of things. One, I do not hate Little Nightmares 3, nowhere near that. I think Little Nightmares 3 is a very good game altogether, but it does struggle with recapturing the aspects of just recapturing the feelings that Little Nightmares 1 and 2 did. So while I do not hate Little Nightmares 3 at all, in fact I love Little Nightmares 3, even so I said in my videos that I would put Little Nightmares 3 above Little Nightmares 1 in terms of main story, I've sort of changed my view on that simply just because going back and looking at Little Nightmares 1, that game had a lot of stuff going for it as well. So with this, I will say that Little Nightmares 3 is considerably the weakest game of the franchise so far. And why is that? Why is this game considered to be the weakest in the franchise? Well, I think there are a multitude of reasons as to why that is the case. And I think that they are most prevalent with the first chapter and the fourth chapter of the game. I'll try and dive into those separately in this video, but yeah, I believe that it is with those two chapters where I think the issues of the game are really, really prevalent, especially chapter 1. Chapters 2 and 3 have their issues as well, but they are far, far stronger than chapters 1 and 4. But and even then, those chapters also have the game itself has a lot of issues too that I will get into. But first, I want to get into chapter 1. Let's start at the beginning. What makes chapter 1 so weak? So, beginning with chapter 1, I actually learned that this chapter starts with Lo waking up in a ship that takes people to the mall, but it's now in a desert, which I think that's a really, really good way to start the game, And it asks questions. Why the fuck is the ocean now a desert? Did 6 do some shit? Where is this game in the timeline? I already think it really did look like Supermassive started out really strong right out of the gate, but once we leave the ship and go to the city, which is called Necropolis, that momentum is essentially just halted. And I think when I was looking at the criticisms of the Necropolis, something popped up into my mind, and it was this is where you could really tell that it's a new developer making Little Nightmares. This is the chapter where you could really, really tell that it's someone new making this game. And that is not to say that Supermassive did a bad job with this game. I still think this game is extremely solid. I still think that this game has a lot good going for it, and I'll get into the good later. But at the same time, I do believe that Chapter 1 really shows the flaws of Little Nightmares 3 overall. And what are those flaws? Well, first of all, once you get to the Necropolis, it is so dead. And not in the good sense, With Little Nightmares 1 and Little Nightmares 2, the starting area of those games, did they feel empty? Yes, but at the same time, that emptiness was made up by a threat. So I think with Little Nightmares 1, actually, you're teased. I think that you're teased with the janitor, but the first chapter is mainly just 6 getting to where the janitor is. But yeah. I mean, as you can see here, I thought the addition of the suitcase was awesome because I think there was a kid in that suitcase. I still think there is. But once again, once you get to the city, you really do start to see the flaws with this game. And like I said, it's empty, and there isn't really much going on. There's something in the middle that I thought would come up later, and maybe it will in the DLC, but that's it. There's also the giant baby that appears later, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I really do not care for this baby all that much. And I thought a giant baby with a giant laser with the fucking eyes from the first couple of games, I thought that was cool. I thought that was a cool idea, but at the same time, the baby is nowhere near the level of the hunter or the janitor. Nowhere near the level, because what is so important about this baby? Like, when you had the hunter in Little Nightmares 1, that hunter wasn't really all that important to, like, the grand story, but at the very least, that's where 6 was being kept. That's where you find 6, which made the hunter feel a lot more significant. With the janitor, I mean, I don't even really need to go in detail with the janitor, because the janitor, he does that for himself. The janitor literally makes himself so significant in the story of Little Nightmares 1, but with the baby, what the fuck is going on? What even is that? Why is that here? Is it important? Does it connect to the other chapters at all? And the answer to that is no. The baby really doesn't do much for the game. Not at all. With that being said, I do think that there are chapters with... I do think there are problems with Chapter 1 beyond the baby. And it's just the overall lack of real enemies. Like I said, it's empty. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at, like, with Little Nightmares 2 and 1, there were always some sort of enemy that was there beyond the big enemy. But in the Necropolis, there's literally just the baby and a bunch of stone people. And that's it. In my opinion, like, I don't want to sound like an armchair dev, I think it would have been really cool to use this city as a way to, like, do what Little Nightmares 2 did. I think it would have been cool if you changed it so that, maybe even keep the baby, but at the same time, you make it so that the baby is controlling the residents of this city. It's controlling these people and sending them after Low and Alone. Like, I think the addition of the giant pacifier right there, which I didn't even notice, that's a cool-ass teaser for the baby. But the fact that there's just nothing else here, just kind of dumbs it down. It just kind of dumbs it down. Chapter 1 is just so bland, and it's very empty. Granted, there are still parts of Chapter 1 I did really end up enjoying, and it was also the beginning of the journey, so it has that to its name, but at the same time, I can't help but just feel that this is by far the weakest chapter in all of Little Nightmares. And that's including some of the Little Nightmares 2 DLC. But there's also one more thing I want to talk about involving Chapter 1. And this is also an issue with Chapter 4, but I'm going to bring it up here. Continuity. There is literally zero continuity between Chapter 1 and the main game. And what do I mean by that? I mean that this area has seemingly, the DLC may change this, but seemingly no importance to the actual main game of Little Nightmares 3 at all. There's none. What significance does this place have to the other parts? Now, granted, maybe the DLC will add on to this, maybe it will. And if it does, maybe this criticism will become null. But still, if it doesn't, and I still think it likely won't, Chapter 1 just feels not only dull, empty, with a very forgettable villain, it has no connection to the factory, it has no connection to the carnival, and it damn sure has no connection to the Institute. So that is basically but thankfully Chapter 1 is by far the weakest chapter of Little Nightmares 3. However, I'm going to now get into Chapter 4, which also has its issues, but not the exact same issues as Chapter 1. But don't worry, I'll get into the good parts of this game soon, because there's plenty of that too. Chapter 4. Chapter fucking 4. Chapter 4 is the final entry into the Little Nightmares 3 main story, and it also has its issues. Number 1, I think, first and foremost, is the villain. His name is actually Otto, which I didn't know, but the main villain, Otto, when I was playing Little Nightmares 3, and I saw Otto, I had zero idea what his whole thing was. And I knew he was trying to keep kids in the Institute. I knew he was probably connected to Lo somehow, but I had no idea what his primary motive was. And he actually does have one. Even though I still don't know what it is, apparently his primary motive is revealed by the devs in a podcast. Yeah. They revealed the motive of the final villain of Little Nightmares 3 in a podcast. You know, when I heard about that, it was like, I said to myself, well, that's kind of silly, you know? That's pretty dumb of them to do, you know? Like, that's as if Bungie, when they were revealing Lightfall, told us how the Witness was made, right? But then they never showed us the Witness's origin story cutscene. That is how it would be. You shouldn't tell big lore details like this in a podcast. Let us see that in the game. With the Thin Man, we knew he was controlling the signal tower. He was using the signal tower to manipulate the people around the Pale City. We also knew he was after Six. We knew the lady was getting people to go to the mall and shit. Like, we saw that. We saw those things happen. We saw it happen. We saw those people. We saw what the lady was doing to the kids. We saw all of it. With this game, you don't really see that with Otto. He's just another guy who is trying to kill you. And I think the boss fight for Otto was actually pretty cool. I liked that, how it brought the two main mechanics of the game back. I thought that was cool. But the problem with Otto is that he's not really an integral piece of the ending of Little Nightmares 3. And this is yet again an issue with the game overall. The villains aren't really that important to the main story and the end goal. Like, they could literally put the ending of Little Nightmares 3 in the carnival and it wouldn't change anything. Because Otto isn't really that important to the ending. He's important to Lo's story, because I think he was he's cool in that sense, but like, that's it. There's nothing really done with that. Like, he's not even revealed in the cutscenes where Lo is in the Institute. Like, it's not even, like, it's nothing. So it does feel like a major step down from the Thin Man of Little Nightmares 2. And yet again, I don't expect them to reach the heights of Little Nightmares 2, especially because it's a new company. But the fact that they missed the mark this much on something like the final villain is very, very disappointing. However, I still think Otto is a cool character. He's got some cool. He's not like completely bland. It's just that he isn't nowhere near as good as the villains of Little Nightmares 2 and 1. Because you have to remember, in Little Nightmares 2 and 1, the enemies of those games, they were teased throughout the entire thing. Like with Little Nightmares 2, when you see on the TV, that is the Thin Man doing that shit. Or with Little Nightmares 1, you see other people going to the mall, that is the lady doing that shit. When I see people go into the carnival in the factory, Otto has nothing to do with that shit. Those are literally just obstacles to get to the Institute. And it just begs the question, what purpose does the carnival and the factory serve in the main story aside from they're just where we need to go to get to the Institute? Like, they don't have anything to do with the actual final destination. They have nothing to do with Otto. They have nothing to do with they have nothing important in them aside from the fact that they are sorry, I'm blanking here. They have nothing important from them aside from the fact that they have the mirrors where we need to go. That's it. That's it.
Oh, fuck yeah, no.
And I'm just left wondering why. Why did they make this direction with the game? Why did they make it feel so disconnected? I get they wanted it to feel like a journey, because Little Nightmares 2 felt like a journey, but the thing with Little Nightmares 2, it was a journey through one area, and all of those areas felt connected somehow. It put the world into a much better perspective. In Little Nightmares 3, you're going through random area, random area, random area, random area. The only two areas that are actually connected is the Candy Factory and the Carnival, which is actually a really cool connection, and I'll get into that later. But they aren't connected to the actual main story. And Acropolis might as well not even be in the fucking game. It literally has zero importance that I know of. Aside from you waking up on a ship that goes to the mall. But that's it. So, that's the issue with Chapter 4. Otto is a very weak final villain because he has no build-up from the other previous chapters. The only actually bits we see of Otto are in the two cutscenes of Low. But yet again, it's like, come on, man, we gotta do better than that. But those are the two main issues with Little Nightmares 3. They're mainly prevalent with the first and the fourth chapter. There are issues with chapter 2 and 3, but I think that you're able to cover the issues with the game pretty well if you just go with chapters 1 and 4. So, yet again. So there's that. So I ultimately just think that chapter 4 and chapter 1 are the focal points of where Little Nightmares 3 gets it wrong. But yeah, so that's pretty much the end of the section where I go over the bad of Little Nightmares 3. I'm gonna get into the good parts now, because I think there's quite a bit of good. I think there's quite a bit of good to go with this game. I think it's a very good game. I honestly I'm being honest with you. That's what I feel right now. Maybe recency bias is playing a role in that. Maybe it is. But that's how I feel. I think Little Nightmares 3 is a very solid game. It does struggle with the parts of being a Little Nightmares game, though. Now, that being said, let's get into the good. Starting mainly with Chapter 3.
Nothing good. No.
Chapter 3 is by far the strongest chapter of Little Nightmares 3, and the only one that comes relatively close is the factory, but even then, in that case, I still don't think it's much of a competition. And Chapter 3 is so interesting to me because this is the chapter where Supermassive gets the closest to recapturing the feelings of Little Nightmares 1 and 2. And I'm only left in wondering, just like, it's like they understood. It's like, okay. It's like if you exclude Chapter 4 for a moment, it looks like Supermassive is going through the progress of trying to understand how to make a good Little Nightmares game. Little Nightmares 1, it doesn't look like they know how. Fuck. Chapter 1, it doesn't look like they know how to really do that. Chapter 2, alright, there's a good rebound there. You have a good solid enemy, which is the supervisor, even though she's still pretty weak compared to the other enemies in the games. She's good. And then you get to Chapter 3, you're like, yes, this is what you need to do. I still think the carnival falls short of some Little Nightmares chapters, but I would put it up there with some of the better ones. And that's largely just because of three things. The main enemy, the environment, and also the people. The Kin, being the main enemy, I think is one of the best enemies you've ever gotten in a Little Nightmares game. I think he is so fucking awesome because he feels the most fleshed out of any of them. He feels more fleshed out than Otto. He feels more fleshed out than anything in this game. Which it's great that they did this, but at the same time it's so frustrating because it's like, had they made every chapter at least somewhere near the level of the carnival, this game would not be getting anywhere near the amount of criticism it's getting right now. Which makes me both optimistic, but also kind of sad. It makes me optimistic because if they just follow the formula of Chapter 3, then they'll be good. And if they expand off of it, and if they keep going, they'll be good. They could genuinely make games that are on the levels of 1 and 2. It's not hard to do. But with that being said, let's go back into Chapter 3. The Kid is amazing because he is by far the enemy we interact with the most throughout the game. He captures us, number one. We have to escape from him, and he even has his own kid, who he uses as pretty much a puppet and as a jester, pretty much. And when I first saw this kid, I will admit, it does look like Six, but a lot of people are theorizing that this is a different kid, and I still don't even think this is Six at all. It just does look like her, as a matter of fact, so yeah. But I just think the addition of the kid being there, I think the puppet, I think the what he does with the gnomes, the gnomes coming back, the people of the carnival, like the what do they call it? They're called the herd, I think. I thought the workers at the carnival, like the puppets who try to kill you, I think all of that is so well done. And even the carnival ride, it looks like this is where they understood how to make a Little Nightmares game. This was the chapter where they hit it mostly on the head. It still has its issues, don't get it twisted, but this was like, yes, this is what you do. This is where I felt the closest to Little Nightmares 1 and 2 was the carnival. Because the set pieces were awesome. It was like, yes, they're getting it. And then Chapter 4 comes along, and then it's just like, man, really? So I can only hope that they use Chapter 3 as the blueprint for the DLC. I really hope that the DLC chapters are on the level of Chapter 3, because if so, it's going to be a great DLC. It really is. But yeah. So that's the Kin, and I think the herd, the people at the carnival, I think are also a really cool addition, because yet again, it brings me back to Little Nightmares 1 and 2, where you really begin to see how the world is messing with the ordinary people. How they're not really ordinary, but just like how the residents of this part of the world are. You're beginning to see that, you know. They're from the factory, and they're coming to the carnival to pretty much die, and it's so they can go back to the factory to be turned into candy. Like, that's awesome. That's a great connection. They did a great job there, but it's just, why could they not connect it to chapters 1 and 4? I don't get what. It's like they were in two different worlds when they were making these games. It's like, come on, guys. I know we can do better. I know we can 100% do better than this. But Gideon, like what are the issues with Chapter 3? I think the issues with Chapter 3 is mainly with the herd. If they found a way to get the herd to like attack us or something, that would have been awesome. Like I know like the workers kind of make up for that, but still, like it would have brought me back to Little Nightmares 2 and seeing how, you know, or Little Nightmares 1 and 2, because like seeing all the people chase you, like maybe you ruin one of their rides and they get fucking pissed at you because it's like, you ruined my goddamn ride, motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you now. Like that would have been awesome. Or it's like you ruin like a play, for instance, and the audience just starts chasing you and they start like piling up. Like they could have done that. They could have easily taken from Little Nightmares 1 and 2 when doing that, but they didn't. They did it. And yet again, I don't expect Chapter 3 to do all of the heavy lifting, but just, man, it really does. It really does, man. And I hate being critical of Chapter 3, because it's by far the most enjoyable chapter, but, just frustrating is all. But yeah, man, Chapter 3 really does hit it on the head for the most part. It's one of the better chapters in all of Little Nightmares, and that's genuinely, like, the chase scenes are great. The scene, the puppet, I think, is an amazing addition. The Kin himself is a cool ass character. The scene where you get captured, that's amazing. The hot air balloon where you kill the puppet, that's fucking awesome. More of that, bro. More of that. Please. Please, more of that. Like, I would put the Kin over a lot of enemies from Little Nightmares 1 and 2. I would put him over the Doctor from Little Nightmares 2. I'd put him over the Teacher from Little Nightmares 2. I'd put him over the chefs in Little Nightmares 1. Like, I'd put him over a lot of those guys. Is he like a top 5 boss? Maybe not. But he's easily a top 10. That's pretty much Chapter 3. That's what makes Chapter 3 so good. It really felt like the devs were really in their element here, and they were really understanding how to make a good Little Nightmares game, and it was this part of the game where it was like, alright, they got it. Now, with that being said, I'm going to cover Chapter 2 a little bit, and then wrap up. Let's go. If I were to compare the factory to any other chapter throughout the Little Nightmares franchise, it would probably be the hospital from Little Nightmares 2. However, I think Chapter 2 of Little Nightmares 3, the factory, is significantly weaker than the hospital for a couple of reasons. One, I think the only real threat you deal with in the factory is the supervisor. I would not count the bugs as an actual threat that chases you. They're just more so an obstacle. The main threat you deal with here is the supervisor, and that's it. The workers do not threaten you at all. And that's the same issue that I have with Chapter 3, is that the people don't really mess with you at all. It's really only the supervisor that messes with you. Whereas, in Little Nightmares 2, in the hospital, you had the mannequins messing with you, which was a really fucking creepy part. Or like in Little Nightmares 2 with the school, you had the kids messing with you and the teacher messing with you. Like, there are chapters where you can only have one enemy chase you. You don't need to have multiple, but what makes Chapter 2 of this game a little more disappointing in that sense is that they show you people who can mess with you. They show you the workers. They show you the environment that they are in. But they just don't mess with you. It's just the supervisor. And I think the supervisor is good for what she does. I actually don't hate the supervisor. I think she's a very solid enemy. She's solid. She is a solid enemy. She's a solid enemy. Granted, I think her chase scenes are a little too short-lived. I think they could improve upon that. But ultimately, I think the supervisor is good. But for what she does, I don't think she can save this chapter alone. I think it would have been cool to show the workers threaten you a little bit. Like, if you're not going to have the main people threaten us in the carnival, have them do that here. You know? Have them be another threat to deal with. Because that just adds tension even though it's just like another enemy that looks basic, it goes a long way to make it look like every single section of the factory isn't safe. Because like, when you eventually realize that the workers aren't going to mess with you, you're just waiting until you see the supervisor again, and then you're like, alright, now we lock it. Every single part is just supervisor and not supervisor. You know what I mean? And when you have an environment like the factory, I don't think you should do that. But now, let's get to the good with the factory. I think the puzzles in the factory are really nice and enjoyable. I think that it's a huge step up from the first chapter. I think the environmental storytelling of the factory is really damn good. I think the connection to the carnival is amazing. I think the supervisor is great. I think, and there are small little references to Little Nightmares 1 and 2, which I also think is cool. It does good things. It genuinely does good things, but it has an issue with the other little parts of this game where it's like, Supermassive is so close. They are so close to getting it for most of the game. But they just don't quite get it. That is what I would really say about the factory. There's not much I could say about it, honestly. It's probably the easiest chapter to cover. Like, for instance, look at this. How cool would it have been? Like, I think in this part, I was expecting this guy to attack us. How cool would it have been for us to, when we take out this fuse, the worker attacks us because he's gone insane from the conditions he's worked under? That would have been such a great thing, even though it's a little scene. Even though it's such a small little scene, you can do so much with it. You can do so much. But now he just falls and he dies. That's it. So, if I were to summarize chapter 2, I would say it's overall a good chapter, but it has a lot of missed potential. It's probably got the most potential out of the other ones, because chapter 3 realizes most of its potential. But chapter 2 doesn't. That makes me sad. But that's going to be it for chapter 2. And that's pretty much every chapter of Little Nightmares 3 covered up. So let's wrap up. In the end, Little Nightmares 3 is a game where you can split it into two categories. As a standalone game, if you were to not hold it to the standard of the first two Little Nightmares games, I think this game is still great. In fact, I would call it amazing in some parts. I think the storytelling of the Low and Alone was really well done. I actually loved the twist of Alone being an imaginary friend. I thought that was incredible. It added a lot of character to Low, and it made their relationship even cooler. And it also, I think, will affect the DLC. But this is a Little Nightmares game we're talking about here. People who are playing this game will not be looking for just a game. They're looking for a Little Nightmares game. And Supermassive, I think, falls short of meeting the bar of the first two games just by a little bit. Maybe not by a little bit. I think it's by a pretty considerable margin. But I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. I still found parts of this game to be super enjoyable. I still found parts of this game to bring me back to Little Nightmares, that brought me back to Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Even though those parts were really only in chapters 2 and mainly 3, there were still parts of the game where I genuinely felt like I was playing a Little Nightmares game. There were. For the most part, though, that isn't really the case. But thankfully, I think Supermassive didn't get it all wrong. They got a lot of things right, but they also got a lot of things wrong. And if they're going to continue making Little Nightmares, they have to follow the criticism that this game is getting very closely. They should not take it as people being negative, because I think if there was a group of fans that genuinely care about how good a game is, it's Little Nightmares fans, dog. Like I said, not many casual players are playing Little Nightmares 3 if they didn't play Little Nightmares 1 and 2. So when the audience is saying stuff like this, you listen. You gotta listen to what they're saying. And you have to realize that they're just criticizing the game and they're not being negative. And like I said, for the most part, I still think this game is great overall. This game was really good. Even though I gave it like an 8.8 in my final episode, I've lowered it to an 8.1. I've lowered it to an 8.1. Mainly just because chapters 1 and 4 really don't do much to help the game's case at all, especially chapter 1. Now, if chapters 1 and 4 did more of the heavy lifting, I think this game would be in serious talks to be one of the great Little Nightmares games. If chapters 1 and 4 were more akin to chapter 3, dude. Because, like, I just want to put it into perspective how easy it would have been to improve, how it could be to improve this game. Because it's like, for the most part of this game, the blueprint's there. They actually have a solid blueprint, it's just that they don't do everything right. And while I don't expect them to do everything right, yet again, there are humans making these games, they won't get everything right. I do think that it still must be said that it's disappointing to see that they do fall short of the first two games. Especially even though it isn't their initial vision. So, with that being said, story-wise, I thought the twist between Alone and Low, I thought that was great. I thought that was really well done. I liked how they teased it in the other sections. And there's even the ending. There's one more thing I want to cover, and that's the ending you're seeing on screen. Cool little flashback to Little Nightmares 2 there, though. But I thought the ending to Little Nightmares 3 is incomplete. It's not a complete ending, and I don't think it's supposed to be. I don't think this is supposed to be a complete ending, because I think the DLC is going to wrap up the story of this game. I mean, it practically already is confirmed. But let's, for a moment, just look at the ending alone. The standalone ending. I think overall, it's just kind of too sudden, in my opinion. In my opinion, the main meat and potatoes of this story is the twist you're seeing on screen. It's the twist that Alone is really an imaginary friend who doesn't exist in the real world. But the ending to that, I think, the ending to the game happening right after that feels so sudden. Like, I think the ending itself makes sense. It makes sense that Alone can't exist in the real world, which is where it's presumed that Lo went. I think it makes sense. It's sad. It's pretty powerful too. And also it reveals that Lo's goal the entire time was to get out of the nowhere with Alone. And it's also, I think, really interesting what this game does is that, consider this, we have never had a character in a Little Nightmares game who fully escaped from the nowhere. Mono couldn't, Six couldn't, and Alone couldn't, and the Runaway Kids surely couldn't. The only character we see ever escape the nowhere is Lo, and I think that's a really cool new thing that they did. And I think it opens up potential for other things down the road. So ultimately, I think Little Nightmares 3 is a game that's a very solid game, but it struggles in being a Little Nightmares game. And while in part I can understand that because it is a new studio making it, there can be no excuses now that two other titles have been put out and they've been received well. So with that being said, I'm gonna leave Little Nightmares 3 at an 8.1 out of 10. Still a very enjoyable game that is able to recapture the Little Nightmares experience somewhat, but it struggles in many areas, with weaker chapters with chapters being weaker than others, and the game suffering as a result. So with that, I'll leave you with the ending. Take care of yourselves out there, and as always, goodbye.
Can't go through the mirrors, bro. Alone? What?